Hey guys, Realtor Kevin B. McPherson. For those you don't know, I'm a real estate agent. I'm licensed in Arkansas. This video I'm not making this video to discourage anybody. I actually do love real estate, but there's a lot that nobody tells you before you'll get into the business. And that's the reason of the video. Some things that I wish people would have told me before I got into it. Um, you may recognize me from my other channel. We have a podcast, me and my broker Rebecca, called Keeping It Real Estate. So if y'all want to go over there and subscribe to that, you can look it up. The handle is at Keeping It Real Estate Pod. You should just be able to search for it too. We have some really good videos over there, but I'm gonna start doing like a lot more videos on my personal channel. It's just gonna be kind of, one on one. I may answer some questions that you have in the comment section. And so, yeah, you can leave them in the comments, or if it's something personal that you don't want to don't feel comfortable leaving in the comments, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is pretty simple. It's at kevinmcpherson@gmail.com. That's my personal email. Please don't send me any spam messages. I have enough of those as it is. So let's go ahead and get into it. I say let's go ahead and get into it. I'm just going to start out with a disclosure. This video is for educational purposes. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a realtor, and the advice may vary. Like I said, I'm licensed in Arkansas, so you'll want to check with your local real estate license laws. But the stuff I'll cover, like it should apply, no matter what state you're in for the most part. Okay, so let's get into it. Number one, you eat what you hunt in real estate. There's no guaranteed paychecks. There's no hourly salary. There's no hourly pay. There's no salary. Um, if you don't work, you usually don't get paid. Real estate is kind of like hunting. You eat what you hunt. If you don't hunt a lot, you're not going to eat a lot. So, some months are great, some months are slow. You need to stash you back some money for a rainy day. And there's nothing wrong with doing real estate part time when you first start out, or even, doing real estate full time and having a part time job. That's the beauty of real estate is, it's very flexible. You can, kind of work when you want to work. Um, you have to stay consistent. Um, you know, uh, you know, get up every day and do it anyway. It's some days are going to be more fun than others, and some days are not going to be so fun. But you got to just get up and do it anyway. And if you're like me, I'm up raring to go, and I can't wait to go to work. So I love it that much. Leads don't just magically appear when you first get into it. You're just not going to have a lot of business per se. So what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to lean on your SOP, which is your sphere of influence. So that's like your mom, your family, your friends. Kind of a gold mine for me was my friends and family at first. They were great, very supportive. Um, but Facebook was a gold mine for me, and that really helped me out. So don't be a secret agent. When you bump into somebody, like work it into the conversation. I mean, don't lead with that, but when somebody asks you like, hey, like what are you doing now? You'd be like, oh, actually, I just got into real estate. Like let them know. And if people leave a conversation, with me, if there's one thing that they take away with it, I want them to know, remember that I'm a realtor. I'm a real estate agent. So, and I want them to think of me when they're selling their house you know, or if they're looking to buy a house. Okay. That brings us to two. people don't see the work we do in the background. They think a lot of them people think we're just out there just unlocking doors and making all this stupid money and it's easy. It's like, and we're just they watch Selling Sunset on Netflix and they think that's how it is. And that may be how it is for some people's market, but, I'll tell you in mine, it's vastly different, and, that is a different state, and, they're in a different market, so it may really be like that, but I'm sure a lot of that is put on for TV, so keep that in mind. But what they don't see is behind the scenes, all the work, all the paperwork we're doing. We're doing contracts, inspections, we're making phone calls, we're calling the lender, to see if we got that clear to close, or if they're pre-approved. We're marketing. People don't think of it, but like there's just so much marketing involved in real estate. So if you're interested in marketing, this would be a great job. That's one of my favorite parts of real estate is the marketing aspect. Um, and it's, I'm there's all this is going to sound bad, but if you enjoy problem solving, it's a great field because like there's always, a problem to solve. Like, it seems like nothing ever really goes as planned. Um, you know, and some things, we can just kind of handle and make things smoothly. Um, I always like the analogy, be like a duck, like we're calm and cool and collective on the surface, but beneath, like our little feet are paddling 100 miles an hour, trying to make all this as smoothly as possible and hit our closing date for our clients. Okay. So we covered we're at two. So now we're going to go on to three. The third thing is you're always working. Nights, weekends, random phone calls, deals falling apart at bad times. The second you sit down to eat, your phone rings. Um, you know, in all actuality, clients, they're making your clients are going to make, they're making, this is going to be one of their biggest decisions they ever make in their life, so like you can't blame them for being nervous. And, you want to take and I always like to, like take some of that stress. And that's the benefit of hiring me. Like, I'm going to put that on my shoulders and I'm going to handle it for you. So, and, at times the emotions can run high, you know, so, like that's just part of it. And like, you're going to have people get upset with you and don't take it personal because, they could be in, you don't know the situation in real estate. And well, I mean, sometimes you do, but they could be like, they need to really sell that house because of some kind of financial strain, or, maybe they're getting divorced, so like they may be yelling at you, but they're not really, they're venting their frustration on you. They're not really upset with you, maybe in all actuality. Um, let's see. What else am I missing? Okay. The next thing is we're going to talk about is social media isn't real. Um, what you're seeing on social media is the highlights. Like nobody's going to put the bad stuff on social media. Like I guess some people do, but don't compare yourself to the other realtors and get down on yourself or other agents out there. Everybody's going to be posting the closing photos, but nobody is going to be posting like the stressful moments of them sitting in the corner of their office crying, don't know where their next meal's coming from. But so yeah, don't get discouraged. Nobody posts the slow months, and especially like don't compare yourself to somebody's chapter 15 and you're in chapter 1. You're just starting out, so they had a lot more time to build their business, and you're going to get there too. You're just at a different spot in your journey. So, don't beat yourself up. And I remember when I first started, and like I thought I was going to get fired. Like I was like 6 months in and hadn't sold anything. I was so stressed out. I was still, I sold when, before I got into real estate, a little backstory. I sold welding supplies for 10 years. Then I got into real estate and I kept my welding supply job, until I could kind of break through. And then, I was working both. I was hitting every team meeting that I could, kind of leaning on some of the other agents, and they were all great and, kind of mentored me and helped me, which would have been really easy for them not to because they could have viewed me as competition. And like, yeah, it's like, hey, it's not my job to train you, figure it out on your own like I did. But they were all really cool and they all were very helpful, even though that we are competitors and we do have to beat each other up at times. They're all great. So that's that. And so 5 is relationships matters more than sales. Um, so people will work with people they trust. And if trust is a big deal for me, like if I can't trust you, like I don't want to do business with you, especially handling this large amount of money. I mean, some of these houses, like on the high end could be like a million something dollars, or $500,000, or even if it's $200,000, this is likely your largest, most valuable asset you're going to own. And this is a big life decision and a big purchase. So, like, I need to be able to trust you. So, don't do anything sleazy that's going to, give people a reason not to trust you or to use somebody else. Networking matters. Go to your chambers of commerce events, go to local community events, shake hands, join some civic clubs. Build those relationships. And I like to compare this like to farming. Like you're planting the seeds now. Now, they may not be anything now, and you're probably not going to think anything about it. But, a few months down the road, like, somebody you met at your local civic club or you did some community service, they're hopefully they get ready to sell their house or like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a new house. I heard you mention you were in real estate. I want to give you a shot, and that is what you hope to get from that. And so yeah, networking is very important. And reputation matters. Like I was saying earlier, don't do anything to give people a reason not to trust. Do the right thing. I just try to remember the golden rule. Treat others how you would want to be treated. Um, and that matters. Like treat the small guy that's maybe spending $80,000 like you would treat the guy spending $100,000, or $500,000. They're all people, and you need to treat them all the same, and be kind and and caring. And we have a fiduciary duty as realtors, to our clients, and don't break that trust. I have to do stuff all the time that's not in my best interest, cutting my own throat, but it's for my client's best interest. And you gotta keep their best interest at heart all the times. You gotta do right by them, not what is best for your bank account. Okay. A lot of people can sell houses. Not everybody can build those relationships. So you got to have something to set yourself apart. And that is important, building those relationships for the long haul. Um, I'm not going to mention any names, but, somebody that I talked to here a while back, they called me the other day and we talked for like 20 minutes and, just out of the blue. And it was really nice, and, that was a relationship that I made over a past deal, and it's just nice that they feel comfortable enough to, just call you and talk and, or wanna go grab some lunch. So, that's stuff like that's great. Number 6, it takes time. Business does not happen overnight. Uh, your first your first deal may take a while, like I was telling you earlier. You know, I was I got hired on, and I think I was 6 months in, and before I finally got my first sale, and, the whole time I thought I was gonna get fired, and I was damn near in tears, when I got my first sale, and, it felt so good because it just, I knew that I was like, "I can do this," and, once I got the first one, I got that monkey off my back, and, like, it was just, rinse and repeat, copy, like, and you develop like your own little systems. I mean, you gotta follow the law, but, I'm talking about like staying organized and things you do, like, so yeah, it's real estate is more of a marathon than a sprint. And, consistency matters, stay consistent, keep showing up. Relationships are going to compound over time. Um, and, like that's one of my favorite things about real estate. Like I've met so many wonderful people that I never would have met otherwise elsewise, and it's one of the things that I like about real estate is all the wonderful people that you get to meet. Um, we're gonna close out the video. Despite all of this, I still love it. Um, and I wouldn't trade it anything in the world. It's the favoriteest job I've ever had. And every day is different. You get to help people. The flexibility can be great. You don't have to ask anybody if you need to run to Walmart or anything, or if you need to take a day off. You can set your own schedules, and I take advantage of that. So if you're thinking about becoming a realtor or you're already in the business, drop a comment below. Um, if you have any questions or if you like this video, drop them in the comments. Like, subscribe. This is my personal channel. And if this video does well, maybe I'll do some more. And if you don't feel, if it's something that's kind of embarrassing, you want to stay anonymous, shoot me an email. My email is kevinmcpherson@gmail.com. And, I'll answer your question in a future video. All right, guys, I'm out.